We are, thank you, and we are now being recorded, so welcome again. And we are going to cover, we want this meeting coming together to be very impactful for us all. We want to feel accomplished at the end. And we want to be careful that we're not biting off more than we can chew. So Beth and I tried to keep us very focused, and we will not get everything done today. So just keep that in mind, but we want to leave feeling satisfied and accomplished. So we're going to start with a reflective activity that Susan Turley is going to deliver for us. So Susan, I am handing the mic over to you, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Beth, I don't need that, those slides. I'm going to do something a little differently. Claire had called me and kind of at the last minute and asked me to do this. And she had some slides prepared, I know, but I'm going to do something a little differently. So I hope that's okay with everyone. I'm going to use her premise, but I'm going to change it a little bit. And so to start off on a little bit of a positive note today, I thought we'd talk a little bit about love. And there's really 4 kinds of love. In the Greek language, there's 4 words for what in English we call love. The first one is storge, which is affection. And of course, we know what type of, that's kind of the first ladder of love. The second rung on the ladder is friendship or philia love. And the third one is romantic love, which is eros. And then the fourth and the final rung is charity or agape love. And so today I thought we'd sort of start off the morning with the 2 types of love that we have, and the love that we have for Beaverton and the love that we have for the citizens of Beaverton. And that would be using the friendship, the philia, and the agape love, which is the charitable love. And so I thought those 2 things, and I thought to start off, I just ask each of you we're always complaining and saying what's wrong with our city and what needs improving and how we can help everything. But why don't we start off with something that, a couple of things that are just fabulous about Beaverton, about the people that are in Beaverton, how we love Beaverton and why we do. And so I would just like to, there's not very many of us, if you just want to take yourselves, everybody get off mute and just go ahead and have a little conversation. And we're only going to do this for about, Beth, if you could tell me like when 3 minutes is up, then we're just going to do that. But let's start off with, what do we love about where we live and about the people? Who wants to start out? All right, Alexis, wonderful.
So my partner and I moved to Beaverton in 2020, and we're both millennials, and we've always lived in apartments, and everything is very like isolated, and like you never even look at your neighbors in apartments. You don't want to make contact with anyone. And then moving to this area, we were immediately so welcomed. All the neighbors, even though it was COVID and in lockdown, neighbors like put welcome cards into our mailbox, and like we talked across the street to each other. And then once everything kind of simmered down before Omicron popped off, we actually got together for like a barbecue and met one another, and everybody's just so lovely. And they've been in this neighborhood for 20 and 30 years. And I've never had that kind of like sense of welcoming or community when moving to a new place before.
That's wonderful. Beautiful. What else? Who else loves something about Beaverton and the people? Yes, Ramona.
Well, when I moved to Beaverton, believe it or not, they still had the welcome wagon in operation. And that was back in 1991. And so I got the official welcome wagon welcome with their basket of goodies. And also we were renters at the time. In fact, we rented a house in the neighborhood where we still live for about 10 years. And I didn't meet my neighbors right away. I think most of them were renters too. And as Alexis has alluded to, renters tend to kind of avoid one another for various reasons, and it's understandable. And so I noticed that the city of Beaverton, they send out newsletters, and I got the community newspaper right away. I wanted to find out what was going on in town. And so I became familiar with the city government, and I was surprised at the various committees and so forth that welcomed Beaverton residents, regardless of whether you were a renter or a homeowner. And I like that about the city too. So
Wonderful.
that's my contribution.
Thank you so much. John, Sunita, Paul, Martha, Beth?
I
Well-
like the collegiality that I've experienced with the different people who I've interacted, whether it be for social things or for professional work or whatever. It's just been delightful.
Great.
And
What I like is about Beaverton is that people give without expecting, like how people volunteer. Even at school board, nobody gets paid a penny, but the number of hours that goes in there is, I mean, it's mind boggling, but people do it because they want the best for the community, for the kids. And
Great.
that's very
Yeah.
heartwarming.
Thank you. And Martha, I think,
well, the time is up, but I think we can keep sharing. I think-
yes, please do. Let's take just a couple more so everybody gets a chance.
Yeah.
This
Well-
is John. I'm out on a walk with my wife, and we're going to end up with a 6.3 mile walk on trails.
Wonderful.
This trail system is a really nice asset to Beaverton.
Well, thank you for bringing show and tell today, John. That's wonderful. Martha.
Well, I lived in Portland when I moved from the East Coast to here, and I thought, oh, I'd never live in Beaverton. And then we moved to Beaverton to make my husband's commute to where he taught in Tigard much easier. And I have no regrets. I find Beaverton very livable, very friendly, and I'm always impressed with everything that everybody has said. And the food cart court and the coffee shops and the library. And it's been a wonderful place to raise my kids. And I've
Great.
loved the schools, been very happy with them.
And Beth.
Yeah, so Beaverton is by far, I've worked at many libraries, 5 actually. Beaverton is my absolute favorite library, and it's because of the community and how involved and engaged this community is. It's a dream community to work with. And so I'm just so grateful to Beaverton and its residents. And I'm grateful to the city management that continues to try and do better and strive and to listen to the needs of its residents. So I appreciate that about the city.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. I think it's always, sometimes we just need to give a little gratitude for what we already have before we start thinking about, well, how can we improve everything? But I heard 2 themes. I heard the people, and I heard some of the things that we offer, like our parks and like our libraries and things like that. So 2 main things that came out, and friendliness of the people. And so that's wonderful. And I just say yay to everything that everybody said. So that's great. And with that, thank you for indulging my last minute pickup here on a reflection. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Martha and Beth.
Wonderful. Let me take care of my phone here because thank you, Susan. That was really helpful because that goes really nicely into our next question, our icebreaker kind of question. Thinking about the vision of BCOA this year of education and awareness, what is one hope you have for educating ourselves and other people, our community in Beaverton, on aging? So I'm going to give you about a few minutes, few seconds to ponder. And what's one thing you see that would be helpful for all of us?
I think reaching out to already established social groups, such as churches and clubs and so on like that. That way we don't have to, I mean, we can reach a broader populace, more people with single swap or single swipe or whatever.
Cool. And remember, no thought you have is silly or inane or whatever. It all counts. It's all important.
I think if we could have, along with what Paul said, using the organizations that are available to us right now and that can get out to people, and in a way that a consolidation of resources that can be available.
I'm taking notes. Okay.
I think one of the big things that is important to focus on, and an aspect that I'm really passionate about, is the continued communication between the different age ranges. Because it is very easy, kind of the hubris of, youth, just to be like, well, that's not my issue. Like, that doesn't have to do with me. Like, it's not going to be the same when I'm there or whatever. Like, we kind of like separate ourselves very deeply from what reality is. And so to kind of build those bridges of communication between all groups and just educate kind of someone, no matter where they are, on just the process of aging, or what the continuation of life looks like across all different age spectrums.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the city changed the name of this committee
Mhm.
to one that the implication is that everybody is aging, which they are, but many of the groups, it goes right by their heads and they think they'll be forever 15 or 25 or whatever. And that's not the case. And so I think that in itself is a significant characteristic of the city of Beaverton.
What did it used to be, Ramona?
Oh, God. The advisory committee on something.
On older persons or older people, or
It was archaic.
yes, well, it was in keeping with the times of everybody else.
It's
That
true.
they were really unaware of the damage they were doing by making or emphasizing this separate group,
Mhm.
the old folks over there that we have nothing in common with, that implication. And so I thought it was a neat thing for them to do, to change the name, because just by saying aging, it brings up the fact that, well, everybody is getting older year by year by year. So, and kids look forward to it, at least up to a certain stage.
Age, and then they want to go backwards. It's such a paradox. Oh.
There's one thing that we could do, is that we could figure out what are the main issues of any age. I mean, since we are more like, we could do it for seniors, for younger people, what are the main issues, in providing them the resources for it? Like, for instance, if it's older age, like health issues that come up, what are the resources that we can provide them? Loneliness, transportation, those are like really, you hear that again and again, no matter, like as people start aging or they lose their partners, or, like they are, especially in Indian community, I see where women, when they lose their spouse, they're not used to You know, there's so many things that is taken care for them. And then suddenly they're faced with a situation where they have to take care of themselves or finances and things that they haven't handled before. If we can have resources for that group of people, you know, what can we do for them so that they can live their years, you know, easily, or at least make it slightly easy for them. That's
An
my
interesting adjunct to that is something that's I find value or important is multi-generational programming. That can help lessen that. We're one of the few cultures that kind of segregate people of different ages as opposed to living in multi-generational homes.
Yeah, that surely helps, you know. But I mean, yeah, our kids, they grow far apart. I'm lucky my kid came closer to us, but there are people where kids are working in East Coast or somewhere where the families can be together. But what Paul is saying, that's really helpful. If we can bring other, you know, generations who can help the older generation, or the older generation helping the younger generation, if we can try to do something like that, that would be so great.
I wanted to, off of what Sunita was saying, like looking into needs of different groups of people. And I find just when I do planning, so being specific about the intent really goes a long way, because I find often when you try to do something for everyone, it often serves no one. So having when we plan things or think about who we want to reach, having a specific person in mind and what and then thinking of what through their needs are is really helpful for being effective.
One size doesn't fit all.
That's right.
This is John.
Programming with boundaries. Okay.
This is John. I think that emphasizing Beaverton's active lifestyle is one thing that will help a lot of the aging community, because that kind of negates the problems with obesity. Yesterday, I was on a 10-point-something mile bicycle ride. Today, I'm walking. And we have all these opportunities for that. Wallet Hills Parks has their swimming programs. And just, we have a lot to offer all the age groups. The other thing is that on Thursday, I was in an AVID program as tutor, and I turned it around and had one of the students explain to me the new math and how it applies to algebra, and that was fun.
And how to invite people to, how to invite and encourage people to get involved in the activities, right, John? Is that part of that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, social activities and social supports are one of the ingredients of successful aging. And you know, we all know about exercise and it's important and stuff like that, but it's a whole lot easier if you do it in a group with people, like some of the programs they have at Elsister or whatever. I wonder if Parks and Rec has any focuses toward aging activities, physical activities, and because classes always make it easier.
Yeah. Well, I'm so supportive of everything that's been said. And I want to come back to the intergenerational aspect of aging for all ages. And, you know, we talk about health, we talk about loss, we talk about grieving, we talk about death, we talk about all kinds of things. And, you know, those things we experience as toddlers. Do you know toddlers go through loss when all of a sudden they stop crawling and they start walking? When they go off to school, that's another loss. And I think we don't acknowledge and respect the loss and the changing that we've all gone through from day one. And then all of a sudden we reach, I don't know, 45, 50, 55, and we're like brought up short. So languaging and acknowledging the many phases of life that we've already experienced and we made it through. So how do we provide language, you know, anti-aging versus pro-aging? Wouldn't you rather pro-age than anti-age? I mean, come on. So that's kind of where I want to add just another element here is how do we language that we all have these experiences? They're just different, but we who are where we are now, we're toddlers once. We went off to school once. We turned 13 once, you know, all those things. We turned 21. So we all went through a growth curve of some kind.
Many of the qualities of aging are actually due to inactivity and loss. Being mindful of that, you know, there are certainly losses in bone mass and strength and acuity of sorts, but not to the normal. Aging doesn't necessarily include many of the facets that, oh, wait, that's just old or old age or senior moment. That's not necessarily characteristics. It's kind of accentuated. So that's something we need to be mindful of. Ageist language.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything to add? Wow, great ideas. Okie doke. Now we're going to move into, we want to finalize one aspect of our program in May. So we have a display and we also have our social media output. So Beth, this is our display. And this is for Black History Month. Ours will look similar, but that's the space we have. And then the other aspect we have to look at is our social media, what can go out. And Beth and I thought that would be a really good place to start because we can, from what we've talked about so far, we have 9 issues. If we can choose 2 for each week in the month of May, we're done. We have a completed project done. So I want to throw that idea out to get a group consensus that this is the right place to move to. Does that sit right with everybody? I see nods. Okay.
I think one thing that we can do is we can also highlight what other aging groups in the state are doing and neighboring cities as opposed to reinventing the wheel. You know, because one of the things projects that
it's really hard to hear you. Do you have? I'm getting a lot of kickback.
Static or something.
Yeah,
Wind.
It's windy,
I think.
Windy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that better?
Okay. So if you could just stand still when you talk, I think it would help.
Sure.
Thank you.
That we can utilize what other senior and help promote what other senior groups are doing, or as opposed to having to reinvent the wheel, we can help promote other aging entities in our like AARP has so many wonderful programs, you know, that we can help promote those in our social media as well. I remember a few meetings back, there was somebody was frustrated with AARP because all they felt like they were getting was advertisements. But the reality is that's just one small facet of how they support the thing. And they do so many other great programs that are lost because of that narrow perspective. And anyway, so we can, you know, don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Well, no, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to channel things through our way of reaching the people in our community and educate them about things. So AARP, we could do one or two.
Do you want me to do the whiteboard again?
That might be a really good idea. So what do you say we take two media blasts on AARP?
Okay.
Does that sound good? Beth is going to put the whiteboard up.
I spoke to the powers that be at AARP, and they will put together whatever you would like and can personalize. They also have already some social media available that I can put you in contact with the communications person, and they can work with you on that, but I already talked to them.
Great.
Thank you.
So what do we want to highlight with AARP for our community? Why don't I think we need to be focused because AARP provides a lot of services. So Susan's going to do that. So what do we want to educate our community about specifically with AARP?
Susan had done a presentation in our group for the seniors about living in the home. Susan, remember that? That was very well received by the community. And I think a lot of seniors have that. So Susan, do you want to speak about what you talked a little bit? I think that would be a great thing.
Yes, it's living in your home, basically for your lifetime, and how you start now when you buy your first home. It's not just made for seniors, it's for everyone, but how the little things that you can do within your home so that you can live with it, live in it forever. And we talk about not only living into aging, but through your aging years. But this also is if you're ill, someone that breaks a leg or that breaks a wrist has the same challenges sometimes that other people do. So it's there's lots of things like that. There's on keeping your brain healthy and on, but that's called Home Fit is the name of that program, the program that I gave to your group, Sunita. But we do have speakers that are available at any time to come out and do that with community groups. Okay. And Paul is right. Yeah, people don't think about it very often that there's a lot of other things going on, but that's what it was. And that can be, we can provide those brochures and we can provide the links for people to get that. Okay.
So do a really kind of a broad brushstroke on Home Fit and what that is from AARP. Yeah. Does that sound like a good plan?
It's not just AARP. There's another Beaverton.
I know, but Paul, we're trying to stay focused on one thing for two shots. We're going to do, and then we'll move to something else. We're trying to keep it very simple.
So what I'm saying is there's a Beaverton committee that's for adaptations for aging in place.
Yes.
So, and it might be useful to have AARP do another area and us highlight the committee that does aging in place that's in Beaverton.
What's it called?
I don't remember, but I remember when they were making calls for volunteers for it. I have a colleague who does that, and she was too busy, but I can look it up. But so
yeah, and there's Viva Village that helps.
Viva Village definitely is an organization that assists people in aging in their own homes.
And I don't think we necessarily need to decide today what AAR the blurbs on AARP, but just that we have a couple of them and think about it to toss it out and discuss in the future.
No, but we want to finish this with two things we want to put in place so we feel accomplished. That's our goal, is to have something in place. And maybe we do aging in place or living in place for the month of May. Maybe that's our theme for the month.
Something that AARP offers that kind of ties into something else we wanted to highlight for this kind of library display was AARP does have job boards and volunteer boards. So I know that we had talked about kind of the fact that like you don't like retirement doesn't mean the end of your like interaction
Yes.
in the community. So they do have lots of information on as far as like continuing to be active in the community, which might be fun to highlight.
Excellent.
There is a the ASIO, the group that I volunteer with, they do a free yoga class every Saturday morning, and public is welcome in that. It's free of charge and it's virtual. So, I mean, if you want to, this person has been teaching yoga for 17 years. She's certified. It's a good yoga class for seniors because she does it at that pace.
And she offers that in certain places, Sunita?
She offers that in what? Say
Does
that
she
again.
offer that in a specific place?
This is a virtual class every Saturday
virtual.
morning at 7:30. Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. And then I can also provide the website address. There's a lot of information. I even put things from Beaverton City Library in there every time because they have such great things for public. Usually I find that people, it's very hard to get people to come to places. So as much advertising that you can do is helpful. So.
Yeah. Okay,
Our classes at LC Stir started up again because I think they offer some yoga there and with the Tualatin Parks and Rec.
I believe Elsie Stir is up and going.
It is. It has
right,
classes
Miranda?
5 days a week. It is not open on the weekend.
Right.
It's open from 8 to 2. I take classes there all the time.
Okay.
That might be another thing that we can promote in one of our media blurbs.
Oh, definitely. Because I think people, people don't know what, well, none of us know what we don't know. So this is a really good way to refresh people's mind, bring something new into people's mind, and then they can decide for themselves what they want. I mean, we're not forcing people to do things. We are being invitational. And
Yes.
I think that's really important for us to pay attention to.
There was another that I had shared with the group, Get Set Up classes. There are like more than 700 free classes virtually around the world that people can take. I can
What's
give
it
the
called?
website.
Get Set Up?
Set Up. I don't remember the exact, but I think it is Get Set Up. I can send the website address. I had shared that before with the group, but I can share it again and we can get set up something.
Okay.
I'll find the exact. And so there's more than like lots of classes in there, and they're all free.
Okay, this is John. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things, you know, I was on the Bicycle Advisory Committee for a while. The Beaverton Bicycle Advisory Committee is promoting a brand new Bike Beaverton map that's come out. And so far as active lifestyles, we could post that map and also the Tualatin Hills Trails map.
Good idea. And can that also be a walking map as well, John?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
The Bicycle Advisory Committee's map, or the Bike Beaverton map, shows dangerous roads to bike on and safe routes.
Mhm.
The Tualatin Hills Trails map is more for walking and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, we will have, what we're creating now is our post for the year, which is great. So what are going to be, do we want to look at one theme for the month of May? Or do we want to disperse the month of May into AARP, 2 posts, 1 week something else, 2 posts, the next week something else, and the next week something else? That's what we have to decide as a group today. Yes,
So
Sunita.
I have how about if we take, say, aging in place, and we have Viva Village, we have all their information, the resources that they provide. Then we have maybe a health, which we can have yoga class, trails map, bike map, all those things in one place, and other classes, that kind of, like, so that.
Have a theme.
Yes, yeah.
So aging in place, health, and so do 2 weeks with, do four posts for aging in place. That would be 2 weeks, and then 4 posts for health. That would be 2 weeks. Is that an idea, Sunita?
I mean, everybody else can also provide their input.
Yes.
Mhm. I think that it would be, to do a theme rather than a particular organization, because
Right.
then you hit a lot of, different areas, and I agree 100% with that. And then those of us that have connections to organizations like Viva Village and like AARP and all the other ones, and the bicycles and things like that, we can get that information to Beth so that you can see what's available.
Okay, great.
And another one we can also, I mean, 2 is enough, but if we ever in future we need volunteerism, like where people can volunteer, like
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let's add volunteerism,
Mhm.
volunteer opportunities.
Yeah.
And we could do a lot on that.
I don't know if transportation could become one, like people usually, older people have problems getting from one if they're not driving anymore.
Mhm.
What other stuff can they have for one, like Metro person can give us more information on that and things like that. So that
Gotcha.
could be,
So we have aging in place, health, volunteerism, transportation, and what were some of the other issues? So we had social.
Yeah.
Social connections.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, I love all these ideas, and these are all good, and it's all stuff we can do throughout the year, but a single post is one thing. So we can post about an AARP program, that's one thing. I can't post about multiple things in a single post, so just a reminder.
Thank you.
So Beth, to clarify, like for instance, if you're doing a post on aging in place, you can provide the resources for aging in place, more than one resource. Is that what you're saying?
At a time, no, unless what we're posting is a link to a page that has 20 different resources. But think about what is it we want to highlight? And besides resources, what's something fun? We could highlight the BCOA. Do people even know about the BCOA? So what's going to get people's attention and be exciting?
So
I think they talked about socialization. Didn't the library just, doesn't it sponsor some groups about being lonely or something like that, or dating in later years?
Yeah, we did. We have a whole series going on. But what's going to drive people to engage, I guess, with the BCOA or engage with an organization that you think is really important? Is there an inspirational quote that we could do as a post? Something like stuff like that.
So sorry if this was already decided and I missed it. Are we doing 4 posts every month? Is that like the idea, to do one thing every week? Or do we have a number that we're trying to hit every month?
Yeah, we're trying to hit 8 posts for the month of May because that's Older Americans Month. But any other posts we could spread throughout the year.
Yeah, I was
But
just thinking,
the hope was just to get 8 good solid ideas for posts.
What if, so at least the way my brain works, I tend to appreciate things in patterns or like themes. What about in the month of May, if we're doing 2 posts every week, what if each week kind of highlighted one of these different themes? So like the first week was health, and then we that week posted a couple different resources for different health options, yoga classes, or different physical classes offered by Elsie Stir, or like the bike paths and that kind of thing. And then the next week, the focus was on social programs. And so it was like, the Death Cafe, or different ways that people can get together and communicate. And then the third week was a theme as far as, just one of our different themes, because right now we have a lot of like individual independent ideas that sound fantastic and great. If we can group them into different themes, I think it would be easier to apply them and kind of decide like, okay, on this week, this is what we're going to post. So do we have 4 like themes that we'd like to hit? I think health and social or socialization are 2 incredible themes. Do we have 2 more that we would want to highlight? Maybe
Education.
Sorry?
Education.
Education would be a good one. Are we talking about education as far as like how to age successfully? So that would be, to me, that would be like, aging in place, and like maybe AARP resources and that kind of thing, or more like personal education as far as like continuing to like stimulate your mind. Or
So
maybe
I think what I hear you saying, Alexis, is to broaden the theme, and in that include things, some of the ideas that we came up with, like aging in place. Yeah, okay. I think education, okay.
because that gives us just kind of a closer framework to work from. And we can start to file some of these independent ideas away into like these little buckets, so we kind of know what theme they would go into.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is get 8 posts for the month of May. That's our challenge. That's our project. So if we covered these 4, health, social connection, aging in place, and education, we could educate. It would be really showing people what's out there and available.
Are we, just point of clarification, are we also going to, and maybe I'm getting ahead of things, but the way my brain works, are we also looking at the display is going to be the same thing as the theme that we're having? Because it seems to me like if we're going to do the post, our display should go along with it. I don't know if I'm asking that to where it makes any sense, but
Well,
I love the idea of the themes, but I think that also then could be applicable to how we do a display, rather than trying to display everything at the same time, do particular areas like this.
I think it will coordinate it really nicely. It will, I think the social media will reach people who don't necessarily come into the library. And the library will reach people who don't necessarily connect with social media. So we have 2 different ways to get out to people. And the display will be educational for books and resources and so forth. Does that make sense, Susan? I think I hear what you're saying, but I don't think they have to be exactly the same. Whatever we post about health doesn't necessarily also have to appear on the table.
No, I wasn't thinking of it, the information being the same. I was thinking of the theme being the same.
Oh yeah.
So that if 1 week it's health, then that's what is on the display. And the next week it's education, that's what's on the display. I was thinking of the coordination of the theme.
I see. The table will be, as I understand it, how they do all the tables for when it's month, like Black History Month. The table gets set up and remains the same throughout a number of weeks. Our table will get set up and remain the same for the 2 weeks. that we have. So it won't change with what's being posted. But it will include what's being posted.
Educational resources is what is going to be displayed on the table. The books, they are a resource and they're educational.
Mhm.
You get more informed if you read them. And so, yeah, education is our theme for the month, or one of our themes. And so the display itself is going to be fitting that theme.
Yes.
The books, the DVDs, and the brochures of the various activities, walking maps, etc., they're all informative material.
Yeah, I
Yes.
took a look. I was actually in the library yesterday and I made a point to look at the display because I knew we were going to be talking today, and it's in an excellent place and it's very, very good. Is that correct, Beth, that it has to stay the same all month? I mean, I don't know if that's a procedural thing. I love the information. It was Black History Month, but I love the information that was there yesterday.
Yeah, so first of all, we only have the display for 2 weeks in May, the first 2 weeks of May. Number two, it only changes in the sense that as people check out materials or take books or take DVDs, those materials then get replaced with new ones. So when we're talking about tasks, what we could use from all of you is, tell me, what are your favorite books about aging? Let's get those on display. What are your favorite films on about aging? Let's put those out. What are your favorite go-to services that are provided in the Beaverton community? Let's put those brochures out. And then when we think about social media, what are the most important things we want people to know about aging in Beaverton, and how do we share that utilizing social media? Is it a post about an organization? Is that the most important thing? Is it a fact? Do you want it to be inspirational? Do you want to talk about a certain person? Just think, and anything that we can't do in May, we can put aside and save because we have a full year of this BCOA team together. And so if we want to talk about, there's 7 of you. If you each want to say, here's my top 3 books, here's my top 3 movies, here's my top 3 service organizations. That way everybody gets to share the things, but it's going to force you to narrow it down.
Thank you, Beth. That very definitely clarifies the direction, for at least for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so how is everybody feeling or thinking about the social media theme for May? That we do health for, we do 2 posts for health. We do 2 posts for social connection. The 3rd week, we do 2 posts for aging in place. And the 4th week, we do 2 posts for education.
Yeah,
Is that how I'm reading that? I want to make sure I'm clear on how I'm reading what we have here.
Yeah, I think that's great, Martha. And so what I would encourage everyone to do is think about these themes, think about what's important, and then go ahead and send that to me and Martha in an email, just to me and Martha, because we can't do the email because of the quorum issue, but just send it to me and Martha, and then I can bring it to we still have an April meeting, and we could put that up and share with everybody and choose, Does that sound okay, Martha, to you?
Yes, and Beth, I really like your idea of an inspirational quote, something that entices people to go to Elsie Stir. People, what entices you to walk or bike, not just that it's here and do it, but there are tons of quotes online because we research quotes all the time for our H Cafe. But an inspirational quote, maybe even a personal story, what you love about it, what it gives you, not what you did, but what you got from it. because what we're really trying to do is inspire people. And think of what people say to you that inspires you. Is it?
I mean, I would, if
Go
John,
ahead.
if you wanted to send me a picture of you on one of Beaverton's trails, or just a picture of the trail, then we post the trail
Okay.
picture and the biking walking map. That would be a cool post.
That's a cool post.
Yeah, or doing a yoga, something about what makes yoga great, and then we post
Yeah.
about the yoga class. That would be a cool
Yeah.
post.
So your personal experience is worth its weight in gold, because that's what builds community. Not that you go to Elsie Stir, but that you share what you share yourself at Elsie Stir. You know what I love? On Point's advertising. Your home is not about the money, it's about the people who live there. I think they've nailed it. That is one of the best advertising bylines I've seen in ages. So this is about connection. This is about personal experience. And what inspires you to do what you do? Those are the stories that are really, we have to share our stories.
I think if we do it in that way, it's going to get a lot more potential for interaction on these social media posts. If we just post a link for walking maps, somebody who's kind of already thinking about wanting to walk more, wanting to get out more, is going to be like, oh, cool, I was just thinking about this. If they see a picture of John on the trail, having a good time out in the nice weather, they're going to have an easier time kind of putting themselves into that position. Mentally, and then
Yeah,
following.
this is John. I've got a number of those photos that I can send you.
Hey,
But also, I didn't want to turn on the speaker until I was out of the traffic area. It was getting kind of noisy. Anyway, the other thing is on the library. I would recommend a stack of those maps that people can take. THPRD and the city of Beaverton want to give those away.
So John, do you want to be in charge of getting that stack of those maps?
Sure.
Thank you. Go, John.
so go ahead, don't feel shy about, go ahead and send me your ideas. We'll put them all together and we'll go through them next month. Does that sound reasonable, Martha?
Yes, I like that idea. I'm so glad we've had such a thorough conversation, dialogue about, I mean, we could go in so many different directions. So giving people a picture of what the BCOA does here. It's really important. And maybe we need to say this is, when the post goes out, Beth, does this go out from BCOA or BCOA in conjunction with the library? Okay, good, connections. We want people to know that, H Cafe came about because of Viva Village, the library, the Dave's program, and BCOA. It was a collaborative effort, as does Death Cafe, does the same thing. So a lot of, when people think that they don't belong anywhere, they really do. It's finding out where the piece is for you. It's fitting the puzzle pieces together. And AARP is now advertising for younger people because they're realizing that we start aging from day one, and get started now in terms of taking care of yourself. And, you don't wake up at 45 or 50 and say, oh my God, I'm old. Well, yeah, you were older than yesterday, but you're not over the hill yet. So yeah, I have a sense of humor about it. So anyway, good. So anything else we need to add to this?
Well, Beth, will you send this list to all of us? Thank you.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll send an email with the list, and I'll do it to the whole group, and I'll just say, number one, send me your favorite books, send me your favorite movie titles, and a story that connects to one of these themes.
Okay, and
I'll ask for those 3 things.
Do you want the top 3 books from everybody?
I mean, let's just think in those terms. Like
Yeah,
if it's for, you
So I
know,
could send you a laundry list.
I know
but
you
don't
could. I
think
know
you
you
want a
could.
laundry list.
Yeah, I know you could. So yeah, if we think in terms of like our absolute must-haves, I know it's very hard to narrow it down, but yeah.
Yeah.
And there might be some over.
Okay, great. Okay, so great work. So we're going to move on. It is just 11. We got done exactly what we wanted to get done by this time. So we're going to take a really short break until 11:05. So use the restroom, grab a coffee, a cup of tea, go outside and smell the breath of fresh air, sit in the sun, whatever you need to do. We'll be back at 11:05. And hi, Sophie. I see your beautiful picture. So take a break, stretch. You could run around the block. I don't know, whatever you need to do. I see Susan. I see a lot of names, so I'm going to assume everybody is back. And I see Ramona, I see Beth, I see Alexis. Yay, we're back. We're going to get started. So we got a lot done this morning, and I think what really helped for me personally was to see how we organized it. And I think sharing our ideas and our stories and our inspirations are going to be really inspiring for other people. So keep that in mind. And it doesn't have to be a long story. What did you get from it? How does it lift you up? What does it make you think about? I mean, some people just love to go outside and smell the flowers. That is very inspiring for people. So know that your story will connect with somebody else. And that's really important to know. So we're going to finish up the rest of our time together. Looking at, I'm making a few changes because it seems like we kind of covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. The Visioning Committee is coming to speak to us next month, our meeting in April. And their task this year is to talk about and with a variety of committees and people in the town city of Beaverton about what do you want to have happen. So I would like us to put our beanies on and talk about what do we need to share with the Visioning Committee about helping Beaverton become even a more sustainable living environment for our older adults. And you know, older adults, sometimes it means people who are younger, but have a physical disability, people who are younger but might have need to use a wheelchair or a walker. So it's things that will help all of us, but they're specifically coming to talk to us next month. So I would like to invite us to share ideas on what we can share with them that will help them create a vision in this next year.
This
And
is
they-
John. I'm gonna come in first because I'm gonna be walking into a noisy area here pretty soon. I would like to see a lot more emphasis on pedestrian safety downtown, on making pedestrians able to walk around without having to bump into cars and get into conflicts and possibly get hit. I'd like long-term to see a pedestrian overpass over the highway downtown.
Which road, John?
Which road? The
Over-
main one is TV
Canyon.
highway becomes what? Canyon, yeah.
Canyon.
Canyon,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, also along with that, you know, that
Wait, let
downtown is
me
very-
finish. Let me let John finish. When you say pedestrian safety downtown, do you mean have pedestrian signs that say stop, cars stop for pedestrians crossing kind
Well,
of thing?
Those are administrative controls. I'd like to see engineering controls. I'd like to see fences along walkways until you get to a walk path like is on the Farmington one for the nature and trails over there. They block some areas off. I'd like to see conflict areas resolved. And part of that is going to be happening. They've got a new downtown visioning corridor, but
Yeah.
I'd like to see an emphasis on pedestrian safety.
So, and you're talking mainly about Farmington and Canyon. I'm confused about
Well, but Farmington has across the trail area, they have blocked the highway so that people have to go to the stoplight. That was an example of what could be done downtown.
Okay. So lights, thank you. Okay, Paul, hit it.
I think you know, one of the things that they've talked about urban planning and at Portland State, and what makes Portland very special and unique is that they're designing and zoning so that everybody's close to where they need to be. And so downtown is obviously important because of the congestion and stuff like that, but planning to have it be what they call naturally occurring aging in place settings. And I can get you some literature on that. And the idea is that like if you go to Europe or, you know, people don't commute long distances. They work and live and do everything close to where they are. In Seattle, the different neighborhoods, every neighborhood has its, you know, produce shop, it's just theater, and so on. So everything's close, and that's that idea. You know, instead of being sprawling out, to have everything be close so that people can walk and design with safety.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else?
I think something I'd like to see, or something I'd like to communicate to the visioning board, has to do with, I can't remember which meeting it was, and I might be mixing up my volunteer groups that I'm with, but didn't somebody come and talk to us about just kind of like the current homeless situation we have going on,
Yes, yeah.
and how a big number of unhoused people right now are in this kind of older age group, and living out of their cars and just in a not a great situation. And so I would love to see more effort into, or more time dedicated to, whether it is putting up temporary solutions like shelters, or even just safe areas for people to park their cars that maybe have access to, like a public bathroom or that kind of thing. And or more low income housing that kind of does focus on kind of older demographics.
Community development with aging in place or aging in place mining and support. Especially in the context of unhoused.
And along those lines too, there are those seniors who are on fixed incomes who are housed in their own homes, but with the tax rate going the way it is, it's going to eventually force them to sell their homes and may end up there being homeless. Unless somehow the city, the county, and the state addresses the property tax situation for people on fixed incomes, because it is steadily going up, and yet the income is not for seniors who are retired or who are no longer working.
Thank you.
I don't know if somebody mentioned this already or not. The sidewalks for wheelchairs, to have that. I think one of our members last or 2 years ago, they had that problem, where their husband was in the wheelchair and it was very hard to go somewhere.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'm curious what people have experienced about the closing down of First Avenue between Washington and Watson. Is that something that you think would be beneficial for a more livable city if we had more of that, or that to be more embellished?
I'm really bad at street names. Is that where they've closed down that block for kind of Restaurant Row in that area?
Yes.
I love that. I think that's done incredible moves to, one, kind of increase sociability in a time that has otherwise felt very isolated. And I've seen just in the last year or so that we've been out here, we're seeing a lot more of these kind of Portland staples, or like these restaurants coming in and opening up locations in Beaverton. So you have Loyal Legion that opened up. That's really big out in Portland, and now they have one here. There's Sizzle Pie, and aren't they doing a Salt and Straw out in our neck of the woods soon? Yes.
Supposedly they're moving in downtown.
Yeah. So I mean, businesses seem to like that. We've had a lot of movement in the area, a lot of new places opening up. It does potentially get tricky with parking if we were to expand that area. But so far, at least in my experience, and like all the friends we've had to come out and visit us, we always take them out there. Everyone's had really incredible positive things to say about that block that's been closed off for outdoor dining.
Just really
Walkability,
quickly. Oh,
and include that in other areas of town, of Beaverton, not just in the central area.
So
I think
out into different neighborhoods, Paul, is that what you're saying? Create those kinds of spaces?
Sure, and so that people will walk and be out and be social, not just have to go to downtown to do that, but where they live.
Okay. Cool. I didn't mean to cut off anybody else, so please jump in. I know they're talking about parking challenges. Is it this week in the city council? So you can you can, the city council is meeting in person, but you can certainly plug in online.
Sophie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I would love to see some of the parking. Like there's a ton of bank parking. There's a ton of like different companies. I know that's kind of a point of contention, but I'd love to see some of that parking be used for local city. I guess it is private parking, but
It is.
I'd love to see them work with the city a little bit on that, so it's more public.
So Sophie, can I ask you this question? If we could do something, would you see that if people paid a slight fee to park there, do you think that would be workable?
Yeah, or even like, I've seen some companies, I live over in Murray Hill, and so like right by Chipotle, there's a chiropractic kind of rehab center, and they have some spots blocked off just for a certain time frame. So I feel like the bank is closed at 5, so these spots could be open after 5, which is typically when people go enjoy the city.
So
Anyway.
spots allocated during closing time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And I know I've seen the tow truck companies, they love that because they drive through constantly looking for people to tow.
They're
So
hired to do that.
they sure are, but it doesn't make sense. It's like, wait a minute, but the bank is closed. I'm just picking on the bank. There's other kind of things like that as well.
Yeah.
Didn't they just put a like an apartment complex or like a smaller housing complex right in that area next to Beaverton High School?
Yes.
And didn't they put like an underground garage in there for residents?
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's a
think
good
the
question.
first level is parking, but I also remember when they built that, they were talking about how they were hoping that people would be taking public transportation and wouldn't have cars, that they would choose to live in the city to be walkable and close to things. But Beaverton's always been a little challenging with public transportation. So
Yeah.
So public transportation, what would you like to see?
I know that does kind of maybe a shuttle.
Shuttle? And where will
like-
that shuttle go from? From what to what?
Well, isn't there a ton of parking over by like the 24-hour fitness, like where the city hall is?
Yes, and the new
So maybe a
parking
shuttle.
structure is open.
Yeah, maybe a shuttle coming from that.
Okay. So from the round,
Goes up quickly though. Not different times when I've gone to the food carts and stuff like that. It's been crowded.
yeah,
But,
it is
but
crowded.
that's all, again, the more for making walkability and more for public transit. I don't necessarily have an answer for public transit, but it certainly makes sense.
I see Susan has a hand up, but then Martha, I wanted to remind you about the email we got from the Street Trust. If now's a
Oh,
good time
that's
to talk
right.
about
Yes,
that. So, but
Okay.
let's hear from Susan if she's.
thank you. I don't see the hand up, so thank you for doing that, Beth.
Thank you. I just wanted to expand a little bit on what Sophie said about using the commercial parking that, is available after hours. And I think that's really important. I know that the issue is a liability issue with those because they're private parking, and the city would probably need to work out a deal of some type, a contractual agreement for liability, because I know at least from the bank standpoint, they take full liability of anybody that's there, and the city will not, because they're private parking lots. So I think that's maybe another point, not only to make it available but to make it easier on that business, just like we have enterprise zones for property taxes and things like that. Maybe some type of a special parking liability, and I'm not a legal person. I don't have any idea how that would work, but I think that that's, you know, a consideration. And I think I always think it's nice when we mention these things to other organizations that we realize there's some hurdles that have to be jumped through.
Mhm.
And sometimes that makes our suggestions are taken in a little more serious manner if we preface that with, we recognize there are some hurdles,
Mhm.
but
Good
what
point.
can we do to assist
Yeah.
with those hurdles? So I just to emphasize, I think it would be excellent. And I think, you know, if there's some way we could work with those organizations to take care of that.
Yay. So Beth, do you want to talk about the new email you and I both got?
Ramona, I see you have a hand up. Did you have a comment before we move on?
Yes. The longtime issue of no parking at the Beaverton City Library on Saturday mornings because of the farmers market. The city has not addressed that issue. And yet the farmers market, the season for the farmers market continues to extend. I think their ultimate goal is to have it year round, is really what farmers market would like. And I'm sure some of the vendors too. And yet the library is open on Saturday mornings and patrons do not have any place to park because the people who attend the farmers market say, well, we're city taxpayers and this is a city parking lot. We're going to park here. And they do. And so any of the programs that the library tries to have during Saturday mornings, it's out of the question for most of the library patrons because there is no parking and there's not going to be any parking until about 1:30 or 2 o'clock.
Mhm.
And so the city is not addressing this issue. And it's one that I have complained about for literally years, ever since they instituted the Saturday market. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have a Saturday market, but they need to locate it someplace else so that library patrons can make use of the library on Saturday mornings. That's my 2 cents worth.
No, I
Thank you.
appreciate you saying that, Ramona. And as someone who works at the library and does programming in a library, it is hard when we can't do anything on a Saturday morning or early afternoon 9 months out of the year. But I do understand.
Oh, so the library actually changes their scheduling because of that.
I think they might on occasion do youth, and I'm not involved in youth stuff, but as an adult programmer, I try to avoid that because I know that people cannot park. So yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. Thank you. So it impacts the programming. Okay.
All right. So I received an email from a nonprofit organization called the Street Trust. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them. I was not familiar with them. So I'll read. They wanted to know if we would co-host a listening session with them. And they described themselves as, let's see, we champion safe, accessible, equitable, zero carbon streets. Everything we do is about expanding transportation choices to reduce dependence on drive-alone trips and makes our streets safer. Central to our mission is to direct advocacy for public policy to help achieve our vision. We offer the perspective of street users, our members and partners, informed by our own rigorous research and policy development. So they've asked if we want to co-host the listening session with them. It sounds great, but are they a political organization and is that allowed? You know?
They are not a
And
political
why would they come
organization.
to us? Why don't they go to the city council? What do you think, Ramona? You know the city council well. You're on mute, hon.
I do not know the current city council well, and it's going to change once again in
Yeah.
June and May. So I don't know. I don't know what their what the overall consensus or stance is on carbon-free streets.
They also advocate for walkability and safe trips to school. I associated with that organization for over a decade, and they're incredible. Some of the money from the Share the Road license plates goes to support them. So they're it's a really excellent organization. They collaborate with the Washington County Transportation Alliance and other entities in town, and they're I have nothing but praise for them, but I think that city council is probably a place where they can impact more than us. But I love them.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Well, I think, and I mean, the city council isn't in a position to organize a listening session for a group that's not the city council, right? I mean, this is the Street Trust wants to gather information for themselves, for their own data that they can use in writing policy. So the city council is not able to do that. So it's if we wanted to do that, to help them gather data is the point.
So what would that look like, Beth? How would we help them gather data?
We
don't
would
gather
promote
data.
an event. It's a hosting an event.
I'm a huge fan of listening posts, which is what they're talking about, is a listening post. And I'm a huge fan of that. And I think it's a great way to gather data. And I think it would be wonderful if we did co-host that, but within, I think it would need to be researched with the city to make sure that the committee that this committee could do it, because there are many restrictions as public. For one thing, if we were all there, it's a public meeting, and and would have to be recorded, and there's a lot of restrictions on that. So I think we'd have to make sure that it's within the guidelines of the city before any, that would have to be researched and a response prior to that. But if the city gives its blessing, then I think anytime you can do a listening post with the community is fabulous. I'd love to see the committee do that, but again, there's some political implications in there sometimes.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't they go to the visioning committee? I mean, wouldn't that be a good place for them to go as well?
Well, the visioning committee is an entity that's doing its own data gathering, right? So the
Yep.
street trust is doing gathering for the use of the street trust.
Streets. Okay.
Okay. And then the visioning committee is run by Beaverton, and they're doing data gathering for the sake of the city of Beaverton.
Yes. Yes.
So it's who's using the data, I think, is the key.
It's important. So Beth, how do we research this to see if it's okay for us to?
If people want to, if the committee wants to, I would email Lainey Parr and see if we're allowed to.
Okay. So we're here. What do you think, guys? Gals?
Well, we might also make it a joint effort with the Traffic Commission. They might be willing to co-host or something.
Okay.
I'd hazard to guess that they probably have to approach them too. But anyway, they do advocate for senior and safe routes to school, and I have nothing but praise and would like to help them advocate for walkability and anything that we can do for make life better for our seniors.
I would agree with that too. If we are allowed to do, I think we should do it. I think it was in my first year when I joined this committee, I had done some research on transportation, because that happens to be one of the biggest issues that seniors have. And I think that is why BCOA is a good committee to co-host or do the listening session with them, because we have a lot of members who might have this problem of transportation. Mm-hmm. So I think if it's a good organization, and if we are allowed to do it, then I think we should do it.
Okay. So Beth, do you want to touch base with Lanny?
Yeah, I'll ask Lanny. And just Paul, one quick question. So what do they they write policy, is that it? And and they propose
They help-
policies?
They help the legislative bodies. They consult to the legislating bodies for all the things that you highlighted in the beginning. And I know it's safe routes to school, walkability. It used to be called the Bicycle Transportation Alliance, but anyway, the government, when they make a law, it's tough because, where do they get their information? How do they do it? It's usually like special interest groups, of which the Street Trust is, but they're not one that have a financial interest. They're not like a special interest or lobby group that's going to benefit so much from the thing, except for public policy, for walkability, safe and alternative transportation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's really helpful, right? Because there's some groups that write policy for the benefit of their own organization. So it's good to hear that that's not what they're doing. So yeah, so since people, I think it's great to hear someone who's worked with them and knows them. That eases my mind a bit. So let me write to Lanny and see if that's allowed. Something like that. What are the rules?
And so what do you think about including the traffic committee in on this to collaborate together? As thumbs up? Because the traffic committee that's what they do. They deal with traffic.
Well, what I would probably do is see if we have permission.
Okay.
Then I would work with the Street Trust and find out what the event is, when it's going to be, and then I'd let the traffic commission know.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. All right. So in terms of other issues with our visioning committee, we talked about education, we talked about socialization, we talked about health. Are there any visions that you have on those areas that would be helpful for the visioning committee to hear about from us? Because we've covered housing, we've covered traffic. Moving around is a big one. There's sidewalks, there's cars, there's getting across busy streets. We also looked about fixed income and what happens when taxes keep rising. And then what happens with our older adults who are all of a sudden can't pay their mortgage. What is that about? Talked about how nice it is to have restaurants that keep that going.
Yeah, this is John.
Challenge.
This is John. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I've got a new tap to speak thing on my phone that I wasn't familiar with. Anyway, I've worked with the Bicycle Transportation Alliance before it became the Street Trust, and they are very good.
Okay. Perfect. So you're in favor, John, of us pursuing this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
But I'm not a voting member of the committee.
No, but your input helps and counts.
Okay.
Voices are important, very important. Okay, so parking, public transportation. Big thing is the library parking during Saturday farmers market, and Beth is already saying she modifies adult programming. It's 9 months out of the year on that Saturday morning. I did not know that. Okay, and the street trust thing, Beth is going to talk to Lanny about that. So we also had education, social connection. We did talk about housing and health things. Any of those things ring a bell, resonate with you that we need to up grade, change, add, subtract. And maybe they don't. I mean, we have so many different health providers around here. It's kind of, they're all independent and private, and I don't even know if we can do much about that. But, never hurts to have a voice. Okay. And Beth, I'm letting you, I don't see the blue hand that goes up. So do you have any blue hands up that I don't see?
No, there are not any hands up currently.
Okay, good. So I'm going to assume that the list that we have come up with, I'm going to type this up and make sure that everybody gets it. So when the visioning committee comes next month, we are ready to go. Okay. And during the week, if you come up with any other ideas, add to it so that you can and share those in the meeting. Because you may go, oh yeah, I remember such and such and such and such. So this is not a fixed list. Okay.
I had made a list of transportation opportunities, and I'm going to send that to you. I don't know if visioning committee or somebody can help us add to that so that this is from I think a year or 2 years ago, but there was a list of things that I found for transportation because lack of mobility was a problem. So
okay, great. And somebody, I think it was Paul, who mentioned, why can't we do what we're seem to be focused in on downtown Beaverton? Why can't some of those things start happening in different neighborhoods? So if you live in a neighborhood that's not in downtown Beaverton, bring it up, bring it to the visioning committee. And because they go out to all the neighborhoods, and I don't know how they're going to do it this year. They usually go door to door and talk to people, but I honestly don't know how they're going to get feedback from people yet. So this is their start of their campaign to take care of that. And the visioning committee does this every 3 years, I think it is. So if whatever neighborhood you live in that you think, wow, I'd like to have what downtown Beaverton has, maybe on a smaller scale, but is walkable, doable, and connects people, share that. It's very important. Okie dokie. So we're coming to a close. And I would like us to think about what's one thing you learned about you today, not an older person that and not some service that you think we should provide, but you personally. What did you learn about yourself that you will that you were surprised about? Maybe you relearned it. Maybe it's something new and fresh that you never thought about. But what did you learn about you?
you always learn more when you collaborate.
So you learned, I learned, Sunita
I
said,
learn more when I collaborate with others because we get so many ideas, wonderful ideas.
So make it an I statement.
I
Empower yourself. I statements are so empowering.
When there's this is John, when there's
John.
a choice between active and passive, I take the active. Like we're walking right now instead of me sitting for an hour and 3/4.
Good for you. Good for you.
That's one thing I learned, that with modern technology, we got these options.
Yeah.
I learned that I need to educate myself even more about everything that Beaverton has.
Yeah.
I learned that there's a possibility of collaboration between some of the Beaverton committees, which will make us more powerful in our efforts to be heard and maybe accomplish what we hope will be accomplished.
Cool.
I learned that collaboration is not only excellent for getting ideas out there, but it's also really excellent for kind of keeping up the inspiration in the face of some things that sometimes seem very daunting or impossible. When you're trying to do something by yourself, it's very easy to be like, well, there's nothing, I'm just gonna go take a nap because I can't do anything. But when you get together in a group, everything seems much more possible.
Well, I learned today that even though I'm a planner, and even though I felt like we have to stay to the agenda that we set up, I learned it was okay, Martha, to let it go and let whatever arises to arise. And that felt really good for me.
I learned that we have an amazing committee. I already knew that, but that really cares. I really learned how much everyone cares about what's happening, not just within BCOA, but inside of Beaverton.
Yeah.
I learned how listening is a skill that, and being on this committee and listening to others actually is more helpful than me being on a committee and talking.
Oh, wonderful. So anybody else? I think we got everybody good. So we have just a few moments, and I would like us to share about the fact that the mask mandate has been lifted. So life has changed. And, you know, we live in a life of uncertainty. I mean, all the time, but now it's even, and we're still in an interesting place. So I'm curious to hear any ideas people have about how they're going to navigate this new change, because this is a new change. And who knows what's going to come of it? We could end up mask mandated in a month or 2 months. We don't know yet. So what's one thing you see doing for yourself now that we have a big change here?
Well, I have discovered that we have, due to the shutdown, and we were forced to go to online meetings to still function, that we now have that as a great additional option. It's given us a lot more flexibility. And for seniors and driving at night, which is not a good combination a lot of the time, I see the continual use of Zoom for night meetings as being a very definite option that we will not be giving up. At least I don't want to.
Gotcha. Ooh, that. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
even if we're in person, I'd like to sometimes continue to do at night, and also it'll afford the opportunity for me to be in Florida and still participate.
Good point. Okay.
For mask mandate, what I'm going to do, it's optional. So I'm still going to continue wearing masks when I'm out in public,
Mhm.
because I spend time with my granddaughter who's not vaccinated, and I don't want to risk that. So I think it is optional,
Mhm.
and people should do what they feel is right.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'll keep asking too. I just heard a comment about, or a feature about long COVID, and that long COVID can happen in folks who have had cases of COVID very mild, and the impacts that some folks have from long COVID is pretty dramatic, and just like other kinds of viral illnesses. So, and I think it's just general, kind of good courtesy to make sure that protect others, just in general, whether for whatever, here there's a lot of people who don't believe in masks, and it's they have a lot more people dying.
This is John. I'm on the vestry of our church at St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church, and we just decided to go mask optional on Sunday, but with the caveat that people who are immune compromised or who are unvaccinated should wear an N95 mask. And the choir is going to be masked.
Okay.
I think what's really important as well is not to judge people, whether they're masked or not masked. I hear a lot of people saying, well, they're not masked, they should be, and you're masked and you shouldn't be. And I hope for this whole committee and for all of us as leaders to just encourage positivity and joy between and kind of uniting everybody back, and not allowing this mask or no mask thing to divide us. I think that that's very controversial, very political. I work in healthcare, so I mean, for the past 10 years of my life, we always wear masks during neurovirus, flu season. This is extremely common. So
Yeah.
it's not a option for us in healthcare. When someone's sick, you wear a mask around them. And so that's just been the go-to thing. And when you go to the hospital and you're having a procedure done or things like that, they wear masks. So it's part of my life. And so I feel sorry for those this is a new thing because it's such a adjustment, but at least for senior living, we're going to keep wearing masks. So if you do go to visit loved ones in a senior living building, please wear your mask. It's going to be something we're going to continue. But yeah, I just hope that this doesn't cause a division and cause, we have enough Civil War things, riots and all kinds of crazy things going on. I don't think we need any more. So I think we just need to encourage each other to love one another, and whether they agree with us or not.
Yeah.
This is John again. One of the things people don't realize is that we pretty well decimated the flu season. There was almost no flu last year, and that's because of mask wearing.
Yeah.
The other thing is that masks are becoming more normal, and it's okay to mask if you want.
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked Sophie's word about positivity, because now as it's going to be opening up optional in schools and stuff, there are kids who are, have those sentiments, there's bullying, there's name calling. And I really, really like what she said about that. As leaders, we have to make sure that we talk in positive terms. It's okay. It's okay how it's an optional. If you want to wear it, it's fine. If you don't want to wear it, it's fine. To be more accepting.
Yeah, I'm hoping that with the last, 2 years and the kind of way the world has changed since then, I'm really hoping more things can become more normalized in terms of healthcare. Like I think about pre-COVID when I would go into work like sick because there was this kind of social pressure of like, well, if you're not in the hospital, you still need to be, a functional member of society, still got to show up, got to be there. And even if you had sick time, there was a weird kind of social pressure of like, why aren't you answering your phone? Why aren't you answering emails? So between like being able to, or being more socially acceptable to wear a mask if you have a cold or something, like hopefully that will kind of limit more people getting sick and kind of reduce flu numbers as well. And like Ramona was saying, we have found that so much of the day-to-day and the jobs and the meetings and the work can be done using the technology that we have now. So hopefully it will become like more socially acceptable to take care of yourself more and kind of protect your community more by potentially isolating if you need to when you're not well.
Yeah. I was just thinking about what you and Ramona had said and John, even just working from home, that's got to have some impact on spread of flu and colds and so forth. Just fascinating. My husband and I are heading out on a month-long driving trip, and we're going into territory where masks are seen as the bad guy. So I've been practicing what I'm going to say when someone goes, "Why are you wearing a mask?" So I've been practicing saying, "Oh, I'm glad you asked. I wear a mask to protect you and myself. Have a great day." So I'm really trying hard to not rise to the occasion and end up in a stupid argument that no one is going to win, and my blood pressure is going to go through the roof, and what good is that going to do? So I'm practicing that. So if I tag you and I have to practice on you, know that's what I'm doing, because I have to say it out loud.
Let me give you some more ammunition on that.
I just want it very simple, John. I don't want all the data.
No.
No.
Masks are called source control. They're trying to control the infection at the source, which is you.
Okay.
And because COVID is non-symptomatic for a period of time, wearing a mask protects all the people around you.
Okay.
Using source control.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just keeping it really simple. Okay. Anybody else that wanted to share?
I wanted to just say I really appreciate that you asked the question, and I like hearing everybody's thoughts, you know, because it does matter, and it helps to clarify my own thoughts when I hear what other people are doing. So I just appreciate it.
Oh, good. Well, you know, we have this thing, this COVID thing that's here, and you know, I think it's permanent. It's going to be with us probably forever. And how do we continue living our lives with a sense of vibrancy and dignity and acknowledgement, and not live out of fear all the time? Because that is not helpful. The fear makes you sick. So, you know, it's how do we go step forward with ourselves, and that's when we have to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank all of you for a really lovely time together, for your efforts, your ideas, your smiles, your presence here on a Saturday with the sun out. So thank you from my heart, and have a lovely rest of your day and weekend. And we'll look forward to all your emails for books, films, CDs, DVD, whatever, and your stories and inspirations for our topics. So thank you so much.